In 1996, Charlotte Pritt was the first woman in West Virginia to win the Democratic nomination for governor. She defeated Joe Manchin in his first bid for the office. Now, 12 years later, women are making a strong statement in West Virginia politics. There's the Supreme Court, which could have a female majority if Democrat Margaret Workman and Republican Beth Walker win in November. Workman received the most votes in her Democratic primary, in which Chief Justice Spike Maynard finished a distant third. Natalie Tennant won the Democratic primary for Secretary of State. She defeated two men, House Majority Leader Joe DeLong and Senator Billy Wayne Bailey. And of course, there was Hillary Clinton's decisive victory Tuesday night. She defeated Barack Obama by 41 points.
There are some who have wanted to cut this race short. They say, give up. It's too hard. The mountain is too high. But here in West Virginia, you know a thing or two about rough roads to the top of the mountain.
The election has also shed a lot of negative attention on West Virginia. Many news accounts said Clinton appealed to white, undereducated, blue-collar voters in West Virginia. The underlying tone in these reports was clear. Clinton owes some of her support to racism and ignorance. The Daily Show on Comedy Central made fun of West Virginia in this segment.
But it would be obviously simplistic to suggest that this was just about race.
He's Muslim, and that has a lot to do with it.
I don't like the Hussein thing. I've had enough of Hussein.
I think now I understand West Virginia's state slogan. West Virginia, no interviews, please.
An Associated Press exit poll showed that race was a factor for 1 in 4 Clinton supporters. Governor Manchin addressed some of the negative descriptions of West Virginia in his Tuesday night victory speech.
And I've watched the national returns, people talking nationally. They were talking about West Virginia. They said, there's not as many educated people in West Virginia, and it really went through me like a knife. Now, what I happen to say is I said, there might not be all the diplomas hanging on the walls that you would like to see, but they all have a PhD in life. They can look at you and read right to your soul in a heartbeat. And that's what makes this state so special.
Joining us now to discuss the election and look ahead to November is Nick Casey. He's the chairman of the state Democratic Party. And Doug McKinney joins us from Morgantown. He's the Republican Party's state chairman. Gentlemen, welcome. Glad you're here. What's your reaction, first, Dr. McKinney, to the data from the exit polls that racism played a part in the Democratic primary, that intolerance does, undereducation does? I know that you're the Republican chair, but let me get your reaction to that.
Well, I was very surprised to hear that. We began integrating our schools in the mid-1950s when I was about a 6th grader. And I've never really thought that West Virginia had problems with race or with prejudice. And I was really very surprised to hear that coming out in the polls. Mm-hmm. We have a Nigerian by birth who is running for Secretary of State. And he's been very well supported by Republicans in 2 prior runs for the House of Delegates. And I've just never really considered it to be a problem. We have a great African-American candidate down in the 30th District who's already on the Charleston City Council. And, it's just never occurred to us that there is a real problem with it.
All right. And Nick Casey, your reaction?
Well, I tell you, I'm surprised by the exit interviews, too. In fact, I somewhat doubt their accuracy. West Virginia, I think, is perceived by the outside world incorrectly as maybe being a little backwards. But, just look back at the Kennedy election back when I was a bit younger. At that time it was impossible politically for a Roman Catholic to be successful in West Virginia. Yet it turned out that the Roman Catholic named John Kennedy was very, very successful. Just like my colleague, we have several candidates throughout the state of West Virginia, from mayors to members of the House of Delegate who are African Americans or who are minority members, and I myself also don't see the prejudice there. I'm really surprised by that, and again, I think it makes for good TV, but I don't know if it makes for reality.
Dr. McKinney, does this perceived attitude about West Virginians bode well for John McCain in West Virginia?
I think that what bodes well for John McCain in West Virginia is the fact that he is a bona fide military hero, comes from a strong military background, and a real veteran. And I think that that's going to do more for John McCain in West Virginia than anything else. I think that only about 3% of our population is African American, and I think that, you know, nobody has ever really had any real problems in any of our major centers or major cities where the population is a little higher. I just don't see that it's going to be a factor at all in the presidential election.
So you, as chairman, of course, I guess don't see that there is racism or intolerance in West Virginia, but certainly at West Virginia Public Broadcasting, when we've been out in the field in southern West Virginia, we do see those attitudes. They are there, and they are real. So how do you overcome them as party chairs, or do you? Or, as my question was to Dr. McKinney, do you use it somehow? Sorry, go ahead.
Right. No. Well, you know, I think if it is real and it's out there, I'm ashamed of it, and it shouldn't be out there. And I would urge anybody that is, for whatever reason that they've gotten themselves in that misinformed position, is to take the time as they go into this election and to really inform themselves and let them, you know, they need to learn something and something positive to come out of this. They can take a bad attitude and make it a positive attitude. But, you know, as far as the use of it, you know, you have to look, I think, at the turnout that occurred in this last election. In raw numbers, as I recall them, Barack Obama, with 26% of the Democratic vote, got more votes cast his way than Senator John McCain did on the Republican ticket. Now, I recognize the Republican ticket wasn't all that dramatic, so I don't want to say that's the end of the discussion, but hundreds of thousands of people, I believe, or over 100,000 people, voted for Senator Barack Obama at 26% of the vote. Maybe some of the folks in that remaining 70+% had a racist attitude towards him, but I am confident that if the other 73% were asked, are you all racist, and that's why you voted against Obama or voted for Clinton, you might find that 1 or 2%, maybe unfortunately, would say yes, but that leaves about 70+% that are going to say, no, I voted for the candidate that I preferred in that election, who happened to be Hillary, but in November I'm sure they'll say, it happens to be Obama.